All right, we're going to test out the microphone here before we get rolling. Let me know if you can hear me over in the chats and over in the YouTube chat if we got anybody in there. It looks like we got a few. Go ahead and let me know if you can hear this, and we're going to get rolling here pretty soon. All right, it looks like the microphone volume's good. We're going to get the music under control here as we are going to get started very soon. I'm going to go ahead and mute for just a moment, and then I'll be back on to get things started. All right, let's get rolling. Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is Friday, September 8th, 2023. I'm your host, Landy, as always, and we're going to take a look at Bitcoin today, traditional markets, Dixie, and gold, and I'll take requests for different coins or stocks at the end of the stream today. And we are going to follow up with our prior conversation about volume-based swing fails, as I do want to hammer home the point that they are not volume-based swing fail patterns in the traditional sense. They're volume-based swing fails to the upside or the downside. And we will look at the difference between that and an actual swing fail pattern. Again, I know we touched on this during the QA portion of the last stream, but we're going to follow up with that a little bit here so that I can answer any further questions. We are going to start with the Bitcoin in 60 seconds chart today. So if you are new to the channel, I do a shorts video just about daily. It depends on if my voice is holding up. We do a Bitcoin in 60 seconds video just about every day where I cover the targets fairly quickly in under 60 seconds. You can find that on the main channel under the shorts tab or in your shorts feed. I would suggest turning on notifications because it can get buried in that shorts feed pretty quickly. And I would like to ask anybody that is in the YouTube chat over there, for those of you that aren't, if you can go back later in the other chat and go ahead and give the video a like. It does help out a lot. All right, so let's jump right into this. Yesterday, I had noted, that's not what I want. We want the arrow. I'd noted, well, it was actually the day before, that the Bollinger Bands on the daily, oh, that's a green arrow. We will change that to white. I'd noted that Bitcoin's Bollinger Band setup was setting up for a bit of a range. So lower second standard deviation right above this daily support at around that 25.2 to 24.8 range. You can also take the prior wick low if you like at 24.750 here on spot price. and the upper second right there at just under the monthly, and kind of give it some room. You can say it's really about 27 to 27.2. And the reason why I pointed out the upper and lower second standard deviations of the Bollinger Bands here is because that's where we're going to see this compression turn into expansion again. And that would be on closures, not wicks, but closures either below the lower second or above the upper second. Now you will see expansion begin to tick up if you see closures above the upper first or below the lower first, or really anytime price moves away from the basis band. Now, that is really going to be subjective. Is the music still on? Somebody said the music's still on. No, I think, oh, you know what? It's being piped through the feed over there, isn't it? Not on YouTube, though. Sorry. I got to make a quick adjustment here. Sorry about that. All right, so anytime that you do see price moving away from the basis band on a close, you will see BBWP, in this case, this is the volatility metric for the Bollinger Bands, increase slightly and or decrease. Usually decreases are when price moves back to the basis band, and then when it pulls away, you see an increase in Bollinger Band percentage, or width percentage rather. And you will see a little bit more expansion of volatility below the lower first or above the upper first, but you don't really see aggressive volatility expansion until you see closures above the upper second or below the lower second, as the second standard deviations of Bollinger Bands do act as reversal areas and continuation areas. So continuation, especially if you see something like this, a closure below the lower second would also break structure at that wick low at around 25,200. That would give me the initial bias that we could see wicks down in to this daily support zone at around that 25.2 to 24.8. And if we did see closures subsequently underneath that lower second standard deviation, I would be looking for expansion to begin. Now, that doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't still reverse off of a support area if it holds, but it's more likely that we will see volatility increase on the lower term timeframes and then bleed up into the daily. And if we do see subsequent closures underneath the lower second standard deviation, we will start to see it expand down. So if we did see closures below there and below this daily support area, and you can again take that wick low at 24,750, I would look for expansion down to this next weekly at 24.3 to 24.5, and that would make available the weekly beneath it at around 23.7 to 24K. And I've been saying this over and over again. The line in the sand for the bulls is this 23.3 monthly. Below there, I would be looking to the very low $20,000 region, possibly even breaching below $20,000, depending on the closes on the higher term timeframes. But right now, that's not really relevant. Neither is the upside until we do see this weekly recovered, preferably on a weekly close here at $26,000, and then we see the weekly above that at 26,750 to 800, depending on your exchange. If we did see closures on the daily above there and then subsequently a weekly, I would be looking for moves back up into this upper second standard deviation by the monthly at around 27 to 27.2. We could then see wicks into that daily at around 27.5. If we did see closures above the upper second standard deviation, that I would be targeting the next big area overhead at this weekly at 28K, which would also make the daily above it available at 28.4 to 5, and even this low up here at around 29K. If we saw closures or recoveries of this range up here, the next big area is that daily at 29.4 to 5. So not much has happened since we last talked. I mean, there was a nice little move up, and and since then, not too much going on. If we go to some of the higher term timeframes here, and we'll look at momentum here on the daily. And this is the advanced stoke by KVDB over at app.crontrading.net. I have no affiliation with them. I don't make any money if you ever go and pick this up. It is a paid indicator, but there are free stoke pivot indicators as well. So we'll go ahead and turn on one of those. And this is going to be the BA Reverse Stoke panel by Trader Ali. And the momentum pivot for the daily is currently at 25,935. So basically 26K. If we see a daily close above there, we would see this remain crossed to the upside. Currently trading below it. I would be looking for an initial cross back down. This is not a particularly strong signal anyway, but if we saw a subsequent closure below whatever the momentum pivot updates to, then that would be a confirmed K and D downside cross. You can kind of look at it as pressure, and that is a regular Stoke running a 6-3 14 255 look back, and it has just some handy pivots. Now, another note, a regular Stoke, unlike a Stoke RSI, which is measuring the velocity of the RSI, we are looking at the momentum of close over close price action. So a regular Stoke is reacting to strictly price action. And in this case, if we see a close below yesterday's open, we're likely going to see a K over D cross anyway, but then subsequently a K and D move to the downside or have the direction pointed to the downside. In this case, Bitcoin around 25.8. This is still within my criteria from yesterday's video, which was, if Bitcoin can remain above the basis, then it's likely that it'll try up for that upper first around 26.7 to 26.750 around this weekly. But if it does drop the basis, keep an eye on this area here at this weekly at 26K down to the lower first at around 25,700. Currently trading $100 above that. If we do see that area lost, I'd look for a run at the lows again, 25.5, 25.2 at the wick low, possibly even pushing into this this box down here by the lower second. And, it's eyes on at that point, as we could be seeing either a breakdown or a swing of the low that reverses back up. And let's see if we have any bigger closures today to talk about. Not today. We will see a close of the 2-day with this Saturday candle coming up. And do we have anything closing with the weekly? So we've got the 2-day, 3-day closing at the same time. That's going to be at the Saturday close, or the open of the Sunday candle, if you will. The 4-day is also going to be closing at that same time. So we've got a 2-day, 3-day, 4-day. So this is going to be important. We'll review this in just a moment. 5-day did just open. So we had our close with yesterday's candle. I suspect this momentum pivot did dive quite a bit, and there we go. It did. So 27,500, which is, again, this is the daily area just right below that daily upper third standard deviation. So if we did see price, head back up, take out that upper second, we could see wicks right into that daily support resistance area overhead at 27.5, and that would be the 5-day momentum pivot in this case. So now this is what we want to see if we are going to be hunting for a reversal to the upside, is we want to see these lower term time frames all in the oversold zone of Stoke. So we've got the 5-day there. The 4-day is pivoted at 25,850. We've got the 3-day pivoted at around $26,000. We've got the 2-day pivoted. Now it's actually taken a little bit of a leg up, and this is because of the way that the 2-day closed. So it's still lagging behind this high here, and it's right around the wicks down. So it's really reading this candle from the 31st close open. So now this is going to likely update. It's going to update on Saturday, and when this does, I would expect it to come in line with that $26,000 area. Maybe it's slightly above, give or take. So within range, basically. Right now, it is a little bit outside of range. The daily, of course, is right there at 26K. So the 4-day and under all closing at the same time on Saturday is going to be something worth noting coming into the weekly close, as of course we will see the weekly momentum pivot update as well. It's currently at 29,120. I do expect this to take quite a leg down as well. So I do think that, Bitcoin, while it's ugly, every move up is getting sold into, and I'll show you some of the inner workings behind that here in a moment. But it's not quite as bad as I think some of the bears have made it out to be just yet. I want to be very clear because it could get very bad. Typically, when you do see, larger moves, they typically come at the end of these momentum drives. When the 5-day is in the in the oversold zone or getting in there completely, and the 4-day is trying to turn, that kind of stuff. Now, it could very well also have already happened on these longer term time frames, and then we can start to see the etchings of reversal on the daily. Now, we did get a low set here, but this low is not anything to write home about. It didn't even break above this close open over here. It did spike at around that 26.4 to 5 and reverse back down. It took a lot of momentum to get up here, and then it hit some big areas once it hit that close open and just rejected. And it rejected on pretty high volume. So let's actually get into that real quick here. And this is going to be the volume-based swing fail conversation that we've been having, and we'll kind of highlight what happened and take a look at some of the important areas along with volume here. So we'll turn on volume, and then we'll cover, kind of the general big difference between this and your traditional swing fail patterns, because this is a swing fail on higher term time frames above the 15-minute. But this was a very easy move to pick out when looking at the swing fail chart that we've been building based on volume on the way down that then created this range. You can see that the interplay with price within this range, which all of these areas are marked high volume candles, and because it is a move down, we're marking the low side high volume candles. So the high volume that's coming in on the lows that then acts as resistance when Bitcoin tries to work its way up. And you can do this with any coin or asset or indice, excuse me, while I adjusted my chair here. And we can see that yesterday we had, this was not a news-based event. I keep hearing like, oh, it's the rumors of the ETF already being approved. It's this, it's that. No, in fact, it's simple supply demand and order book and order flow, order book and order flow economics, basically. And in this case, we saw that this wick, which is white lines, are the wick lows of the higher volume candles, and the yellow horizontals here are going to be the close opens. So in this case, we had seen a deviation all the way up to this wick low from the move down, which was a nice high volume candle. And there's the close open above it. And we saw that this was acting as resistance. Bitcoin stepped down to some of these other areas of higher volume before setting the low. It moved its way back up, came down and retested this wick low over here, which is a nice high volume right before the low that was regained, creating a swing fail pattern on some of those higher term time frames. And it even came down and retested the close open again here after spiking and not closing above this close and this wick here. And it kind of held support between these two wicks. These were nice high volume wicks. In this case, that was this wick low right here. Nice high volume on that guy. And then the next wick low before the actual low here was decent enough volume on the way down versus what had been seen in this little bit of volume gap there, and a little bit of a volume gap there, I should say. And after finding support in that area here, after spiking the close, It found support in those two wicks. It found resistance at the wick and close open here, swung down, and then recovered and closed above it. That kicked off a nice move up to this wick and this close here. And this is one of the higher volume close opens from the way down here. That's this guy right here. Now it pales in comparison to the move up there that was heavily sold into at the highs before the reversal right back down here. And after getting through this area, nice high volume green candle right here that did serve as a swing fail area. Now, in this case, because it is on the way back up, I'm going to mark this with a teal horizontal. I believe that's what I've got on here. And you can see that from the high volume candle here, which is already inside of a wick and a close, we're not really going to mark the close open on this in this case because it's unneeded. We already have an area of interest marked, and we can just mark this wick to the wick above it because this created an area of heavy overhead resistance, and we can see that Bitcoin was unable to pass this area. You could even take the lower volume wick high over here. What's really important is that once this area is set, and you can see that there was no closes above this wick high of the next candle after this, arguably one of the higher volume candles in this range. Yeah. So since the lows, it was even higher than the lows, I believe. Or nope, not quite, almost. Highest volume candle was actually the first rejection at around 25,866 to 25,922. It did wick above, but it was a very high volume rejection there. But this was the highest volume that we had seen since this little low was set, or this little high volume candle right here, I should say. This was a little bit of a rejection that got bought back up before pushing on through, creating this high. And realistically, the way to confirm that this was going to break back down was when it lost the consolidation area here, this low wick here. You can see that when it tried to hold up here and then lost it, it retested it and then fell right through this wick and close right down to this base that it's been building down here. So, nothing too crazy happening, just a bit of a range play here. And we did see decent volume coming right in on this wick. There's no need for me to mark this bottom side because it's only once I see closes below this area here at 25,660 am I even going to pay attention to this here. And I do have all of these lines alerted so that I can keep track of when price is moving. And a little tip for you, if you want to keep up with the alerts, and you want to go down to something like a 5-minute, at least that's my suggestion. And when you create an alert, you want to add an alert. In this case, add your alert, do it once per bar on the 5-minute, enter in the price of the horizontal that you have snapped down. And that'll give you a good idea as price keeps oscillating around there on a 5-minute close. If it's an hourly, the notifications might only notify you once every hour, even though it might be crossing around that area frequently. I've had trouble with that, so I've moved to creating the alerts on the 5-minute chart so that I am alerted pretty much immediately, and it's been much more reliable. Now in this case, the zone for Bitcoin to hold to the downside is going to be this 25,660 to around this 25,550 area. So these two wicks, we had already seen a test over here because losing this wick low and then staying below there without just swinging it is going to beget, I believe, falling through that area down to the lows again at around 25.3, 25.2 or so. You can also give it a little bit of an area because this is more like 25.4. So you can say 25.2 to 4. And below there, of course, is the lower second standard deviation on the daily. And I do want to point out that observing this price action, once we saw the close break down below 26,130 here and the back test, you can go here and look at the hourly chart, and you can see that this was clearly a swing fail. You could just pick out that wick high. This confirmed it pretty much next candle. This was the hourly candle breakdown, but on the 15-minute, you could easily get into position on this particular breakdown candle for the move down. And, I did, and I took profit in the zones that are marked here. This area here, this guy down here. And I haven't refilled that particular short position. There's no need at the moment. I am letting it ride. I typically do either 3 or 4 take profits, not financial advice, but that's how it's how I have arranged my trading plan, and in accordance to my risk profile. So, and yeah, this is really a whole lot of nothing in the grand scheme of things for this daily move so far. Is it ugly on the daily? Yeah, but Bitcoin's just chopping around the lows. So now if we want to dive a little bit deeper, we can take a look at what happened here in terms of open interest. Now, I had made note of this in Wednesday's stream with you guys, that the hourly was going to do one of two things. We saw on the lows here, we saw this low put in. Now we had a bunch of lower highs here, and you can see fairly easily we had a bunch of lower highs here, a slew of lower highs, right? Oops. Come on, mouse, you can do it. We had a slew of lower highs during this particular move, and we had higher lows on open interest. Now, this was going to go one of two ways during this drawdown. Open interest was very high on this last low, which was a lower low. And in this case, it's either going to be longs are going to get wiped out to the downside because they're trying to long the low, or shorts are shorting the low, and this is going to then take off. And we saw the subsequent move up that wiped out OI right after. So this was a little bit of a higher high close on this hourly here. And once we saw that, that's not what I'm looking for. The tools are different. They changed TradingView, but a lot of the places that use the API did not update. So we'll go here, make this a little bit more visible. This ended up being a little bit of a short-term short squeeze. Open interest built up to right about on that wick low here, which was coming in at around that 25,380 to 400 area. Open interest got up to about $8 billion, where price actually just got open interest just got to as well just a little while ago. And once it got there, you see the candle gets wiped out. This is your confirmation that this was a short squeeze. When the green candle hits, about 200 to 250 billion, or 200 to 250 million, not billion. That would be crazy if it was billion. We wouldn't be talking very much about Bitcoin right now if it was 250 billion. But it was 250 million or so from that 8 billion down to, it was actually more wick to wick. It was almost 400 million. That was wiped out on that move up. Then Bitcoin recovers in this case as it moves up. We see open interest rise again. It holds on a higher low and then starts to march again. And this was shorts trying to reposition again. And on this move up, you see open interest move down as the shorts got wiped out above this close open here and in and around the wick of this initial rejection. Then we see open interest come right back onto the market. This was longs, got to about 8 billion again, and then we get a bit of a long squeeze to the downside. So price moves down, open interest moves down. There's your long squeeze. So we had two nice short squeezes on this guy here and this guy here, and then we got a nice long squeeze. So realistically, not much has happened. It's it's a whole lot of range plays going on right now, and that's about it. Um, until we see Bitcoin either break down below the close on the wick lows here to the actual wick low. Until we see that, and not much is going to happen. And that is also where the lower second standard deviation is on the daily. And that's right, I'd be looking right into this liquid zone down below at around that 25.2 to 24.750 that is marked on this chart. And above here, I had made note that I didn't mark any of these higher volume candles on the way down, but we kind of skipped over them because we were in the range. But if you look at this candle here, and in the wick and close open, and snap a horizontal, if you just look at this guy here and the one before it, why is this not snapping to the right thing? There we go. And this next guy here, and you go to the right here and look at price, and oh, look at that, right on those high volume areas. So in this case, they're both wicks. You can mark them as wicks. We did not mark up. This was actually a close open. I clicked on the wrong one. This was a wick, and it's so close to the close open that I'll just mark it as a wick. Same for this guy. Now, why aren't I marking the candle wick highs? Because it's a move down. If it was a move up, I'd be marking the highs, as I just noted with the horizontals that are in teal. But because the move was to the downside, I'm marking the low side of the candles, because if you can recover the low of the candle, you're likely going to go test higher to at least the next low. And that's either on a wick or a close. I'm not going to mark the opens on the down candles on a move down. In that case, it's not going to be as relevant. The primary resistance is when using horizontals will be on a move up, will be the wicks and closes in reverse, basically to your left. So in this case, got right in there, wicked that, or almost wicked that for 465, 26, 465 area, and then chopped around, tried to hold this close to wick low, lost it, down, down, down we go. And I actually do trade this way. I also am a big fan of throwing on Bollinger Bands. Now I have them turned off here, but on this move to the upside, you saw a nice expansion, right, to the upside, and then you see the consolidation. Bollinger Band cools down, or the Bollinger Bands, I should say, because it is a first, second, and third standard deviation to the upside and downside. We see then a rejection at the upper second. We see impulse through it, rejection in and around that area, comes down to the lower first, comes back up to the upper second, loses it, loses the lower first, tries to hold the lower second, bounces, rejects at the 20 simple basis band, and then starts to expand its first closure below the lower second for expansion to the downside here was when it broke down below 26,130. I'd also kicked off expansion on the 15-minute to the downside. So the next big area would be, the 25,866 to 25,922 area, and then the next area down below it at 25,660 to the 25,550 area. So that's still relevant. We have also seen a bit more contraction here. We did see a close through the lower second, and I believe even the lower third. I don't have on all of the bells and whistles of this indicator here, but that was picked up immediately in the next candle to stifle that expansion or further expansion to the downside, regained the lower second, came back up, hit the basis band, and is now just kind of riding that lower first down sideways. And when looking at some of the lower term time frames, we'll go ahead and get rid of all of the fun horizontals and trend lines and arrows here. We'll get rid of the arrows first, and we'll look at the lower term time frame setup coming into basically the close this week. for the close of the day and then the close of the traditional market week. And we'll also take a look at traditional markets, but let's go ahead and take a look at Bitcoin on the 12-hour, for instance. 12-hour is now going to be in a compression phase, so getting a little bit of cool down. Momentum pivot is going to be 25,563. So that 25,550 area that I pointed out, if that was lost, we're looking basically at a run at the lows again at minimum. And if we see the 12-hour close below there, it would start to paint the picture of pressure down, at least initially on an initial cross. 12-hour does have nice bullish divergence and will continue to build bullish divergence in this area if it can hold up. The bearish control zone is going to be at 25,600. Already basically saw the upper end of that get tapped. The signal line is at 25.7. That's already been tagged as well within this 12-hour candle. If we do start seeing that close below, then I would be looking for a retest of the bearish control zone and possibly a move into it. Just to give you an idea, if it was going to go bear critical, which is all the way down here, it would still throw 12-hour bullish divergence, and this would be regular bullish divergence. And in this case, the bear criticals all the way down at 22,656 as it currently stands. And of course, that would be breaching that monthly. I'd still be looking lower over time or for those bounces to fail. So basically what I'm saying is on the 12-hour, you want to see it hold around the bearish control zone until we see this update to a number that is within range or within the deviation range into the box below at around 25.2 to 24,750. When looking at the 8-hour, we've got momentum. It's not yet crossed down, but any close basically below 25,922, 26K will cross the 8-hour, stoke back to the downside. And, it's still fine. It's neutral. It's bearish neutral right now in terms of RSI. Not much to make of this. We do see, we did see quite a bit of expansion to compression and then nice expansion of the Bollinger Bands. This is setting up a range on the 8-hour lower second here at 25.5, basically, in the upper second being around 26,180. So that is roughly the area that needs to be regained on the daily as well at that upper second, which is around the basis band on the daily. The 6-hour, same deal. Right now it's setting up for a bit of a range play. If we do see closures below the lower second at 25,550, again, that's an area that we already had marked. Then I'd be looking down into the lows again and above the upper second, which again is at 26,150, just underneath that basis band on the daily. Above there, I'd be looking for a run at least this local high. If it can break it, I'd be looking for the next big wick here at 26,800 or so, and then possibly a test of this low around 27 on the wick to around that 27,200 area where the monthly is. And this, of course, is going to be crossed to the downside on Stoke here at 26,140 to turn that back up. And, it has been bullishly resetting in terms of its momentum and keeping price within the range. But because price has not broken back out, it's technically a bearish reset on momentum every time, right? All right. Let's look at the 4-hour. 4-hour should be fully turned down. Yep. And that number to beat is going to be 26,260 here. We will see this update at 1 p.m. my time, Pacific Standard Time. Currently, there's no major bearish divergences to be aware of that are playable. And we're seeing the bands set up for a range. Nice move. And I do like this type of a move on the 4-hour. If the 4-hour can hold the lower first standard deviation, that might indicate that it's going to try up before trying down again. I like expansion and then coming back and seeing it hold the lower first or the lower second if the lower second is above a low, in this case on a move to the upside. So not getting too much different here. 26,200 to the upside for the upper second. Lower second's going to be 25,440. Again, that would be below that critical area that I was talking about before running the lows. So we could even see a run of the lows if it did get down there. And if it reverses off of that area without closing below, then I would be looking for too much further down before a move back up to at least bearishly retest and or reverse bullishly. So that's going to be my take on Bitcoin coming into the weekend here even. Let's go ahead and take a look at traditional markets and kind of pick up where we left off on Wednesday. We see that Dow has regained. Let's turn off volume because it's kind of pointless right now on traditional markets. Now we have all right, so right now on Dow we have what can be considered it's a downtrend still, right? But in terms of candlestick structure, we have the potential for this downtrend, lower high, and the potential for a higher low if Dow can maintain above this prior low area here at 34,351 to the wick low at 34,291. If it can remain above there, I would look for this to be a bit of a setup for a trend break where you get a higher low, you take out the higher high, and then we go and we hunt the highs again. But if it does lose that area, that's just trend continuation, at least back to this prior low at around 34,000 on the wick and 34,100 or so on the close open here. Well, this was actually the close. So the open from futures actually gapped up. Now, for anyone that's bullish, I do want you to note that this might have been a bit of a gap fill at the basis band. It takes out the lows and runs that lower second around that 34,000 again. If it starts to breach below it, well, then we're looking for, at minimum, a move down to 33,950 or so to the next area at the lows around 33,700, maybe even that wick at 33,600. Back above, I would say today's wick high. This will be something, of course, to look for next week. And that wick high is coming in at 34,627.85. Back above there, that would also be above the basis. I would favor a move to test this high at minimum at the close here at around 34,720 to the close to the open at this high here at 34,900 to around 35,000 by the upper first and above it. And then if we did see closures above, that would be a bit of a trend break, and I'd be looking for the possibility that this could higher low its way out and or chop sideways and try the highs again. As it stands right now, momentum does not favor the bulls currently, but if it does set a higher low, it's likely to turn, be a bit of a bullish reset as it tries to chop its way sideways and then reverse trend. In this case, 34,622 would give this a cross back up. Now, of course, this is going to update at open Monday. When looking at the weekly, well, the weekly set a low, a technical low on a close last week coming into this week, but this is not follow through, right? We need to see follow through with closures above the upper first here at around that 34,925 to this wick high again at around 35,1. Otherwise, it's just kind of sideways. It's still above the basis, so things are still fine on the weekly. It's the ugly part is the Stoke momentum on the weekly, but that's at 35,330. So if we did see this regain 35 especially at the upper first on the weekly, let's say by end of next week or the week after, then I would be looking at this to at minimum over the next couple of weeks in the fourth quarter, coming into the fourth quarter and or in the fourth quarter running its highs again in the mid $35,000 to upper $35,000 region. When looking at SPY, SPY, there you are. SPY is, there's not much here. Again, the danger for the bulls is that this is a daily backfill before a further move down. Coming into next week, there is options expirations on Friday. So Thursday, Friday, I believe. Thursday, Friday. It's going to be Thursday into Friday, so that's going to be the 15th. Likely to see some volatility prior to expiration, and then more volatility on expiration. So as there's some repositioning and rolling going on at that expiration, coming into the final quarter of the year in preparation for the first quarter of next year as well. So that's going to be something to be aware of. And then there's not really much. I mean, there's the quarterly close at the end of the month. There is Jay Powell and the Fed speaking on the 20th. That's probably going to have an effect. We'll see what they do with rates, as there is likely to be a rate decision either to pause and or hike. Unless something breaks between now and the meeting, I highly doubt they're going to pivot. But, that's all speculative. And in this case, momentum is down below 451. We are seeing, this isn't like bears can't push it down. Everyone knows that options expirations are coming up. So I do think that the market might, adjust accordingly. In this case, being above the basis is fine. It can even move down to the lower first at 438, 440 area to this close to the wick, and that close to the wick is around 437 to the wick at 435, into this low by the lower second at 433, and even this support area down here at 430 to 432. So if it remains above there, especially by options expiration, I do think it's probably in for at least another move to try back up, unless this was it. If it starts to lose this area down here at 430, it's gonna be a move back to this low again, and below. Step it down to 425, 420, 400 most likely over the course of the next quarter, if that were going to happen. As it stands, same kind of look. This was a downtrend. We had the lower high here and then a higher high. Could this be a higher low? So, I mean, technically this was a lower high into higher low, higher high. Could this turn into a higher low? Of course, the wick to watch out for would be today's wick, and that's coming in at 447. Above there, this low is likely set. Some may want to take a little bit more caution and wait until it's above 448 at the upper first, and then look for a move up to the 450 to the 453, 455 area around the upper second here, as this could just turn into a bearish retest of momentum, but it would still be a structural higher low in that case if that were to happen. Of course, if it does lose this wick low here at 442 to 440 or so, then it's going to be a move down to 438, 440, and then so on and so forth to the downside. And then expansion below the lower second, of course, wouldn't look great. But typically what you see with SPY is it kind of grinds its way down and then throws a few volatile candles before a reversal. So same thing to the upside here. Kind of grinds up against it, throws some volatile candles into it, then mean reverts. And this, to me, this has the etchings of a reversal attempt of this particular downside move. So keep that in mind. Now, I will say, anything below the 450 to 455 area is not really interesting, um, to the upside at least. And then anything that drops 440 or so, and the lower first is more interesting for the lows and lower. When looking at the weekly here, weekly still above the basis, looks fine. 453. Again, that's that upper first area and around the current high to like 455 or so. Above there, the weekly is going to turn. You can see that it's got a few bullish resets already. Argument could be made like, oh, the meme trend line broke down, and it sure did. Even if I drop poorly, you can see that it did break down. And, but that was already reflected, on the daily. Is it really that big of a deal after, geez, the last, yeah. Is it really that big of a deal if we've seen a move from this low down here on the weekly to the high at, this was a move of 32%. So, yeah, a move back to the basis, even lower first or lower second, no big deal. Below 400 is where it starts getting dicey to go run this last low, and you don't want to see this last low taken out down here at around 380. Below there, it's likely going to run the lows, and that would open up the possibility for lower. But as it stands right now, it's fine until you see things start to really break down. I know a lot of people are like, lower high, it's a lower high. Well, just put in a higher low. So don't scoff at it just yet. But yeah, trust me, we'll know well ahead of time. The chart will tell us. And let's go ahead and take a look at Dixie. And look at that. Dixie's still marching on. I know a lot of people are like, it's defying gravity. No, it got a momentum reset, so it's fine. It's got a little bit more on it, 104.63. That's going to update, probably be right around price action when it opens on Sunday. Reminder, Dixie will start trading when CME opens. And, below this wick low. And it's probably going to head down, probably in a higher low fashion. But we'll have to assess that if and when it happens. In this case, for 104.66 is the wick low, and I'd even want to see it break down from this wick low here at 104.59. If it does drop that area, that would also be below the upper first here. I'd be looking for a move back to this order block area around 104. Around 104 or so. And that's likely where the basis band is going to update to after the close open of the new daily candle. And in this case, it looks good for further upside. Now, is it getting a little stretched out above the daily? Yeah, but 2-day got to move back up. 104.86 is the number to beat. And, this is closing today, so it is going to update. Probably be right on top of price action. Excuse me. Sorry. And then we come back to it at open next week to see what the pivot is. 3 days, still pushing. This is, you got to take it in order. The 2-day was kind of holding up that daily with pressure up. 3 days holding up the 2-day, the 2-day and daily rather, with the 3-day here. And, its momentum pivot is also chasing heavily. So it's likely that sometime next week, if it is going to put in a high locally, it's going to turn momentum on the 2-day and 3-day as well. But remember, it can chop around those highs and even make higher highs on a wick and or close, even when momentum has reversed, because the 4-day is still nice and elevated here at 102.86. 5-day is up above 102.11, and that's going to be the same for the weekly. So the 5-day and the 4-day is really going to be the early indication for me in particular. When this does cross down, then it's likely we've seen the 3-day, 2-day, and daily already put in their highs. And then we can gauge potential downside areas of interest on Dixie, and that'll likely provide some relief for traditional markets and your asset classes and your risk on assets, so on and so forth, like cryptocurrencies. So in this case, not out of the question that it could continue to grind up against this upper second and eventually into this box up here around the deeper 105 area, maybe even swing it up to 106. But if it does start to lose this support at 104.59 and the upper first, then I'm looking for a run back to these highs, 104.26 to 104. Below there, then we can start looking for highs to be in on the daily and possibly higher term timeframes as well, at least in the near term. And then we come back to it later. And the final thing to look at here today is going to be gold. Gold, kind of looks like everything else. It's kind of ugly. It's in a downtrend. It did technically have a lower low here and then a higher high here. I go for the closes. This was a consolidation move up. This is a single high to me. In the way that I perform my TA personally, this is your downside move. This is your upside move. There are going to be people that tell you like, nope, this was higher high, or this was your high, higher low, and then once this wick got taken out, this is your higher high. I don't look at it that way. I'm looking at it from the closing structure in this case. You can throw on a Gann swing indicator or any kind of a swing indicator, and it's going to tell you that this was a low, and this was a high, this was your low, and this was your higher high, and then could this be another higher low? I don't know, but that's not the way I look at it. This is your downtrend. This is your lower high. If this is going to be the higher low, it's got a trend break above 1952.95, so basically 1953. And then we start targeting, some of these deeper areas. Now, of course, that is right around this low structure here. So these two little lows here that you see on a close, if that area is recovered, then we start targeting, 1972, 1978, wick high there at 1987, then 2K, so on and so forth. As it stands right now, being above the basis does favor the bulls, but being in a sideways Bollinger Band look just makes for this to be more than likely a little choppy, unless it goes and takes out that upper second. Now, if it does lose the basis here at 1915 and subsequently test this low at 1903 and lose that, then I would look for this lower first at 1898 to 1893 at the support, and then the low, and the lower second. And this low is coming in at 1884 to 1888, and the lower second is just below at 1880 to 1881. If we saw closures below there, of course, then I'd be looking for another leg down into some of these deeper areas, 1860, 1870 area, and then 1850, 1840, and 1820 to 1800. That's not my first take on gold, but momentum turned against it, 1941 to turn that back up. Of course, that will update and when it opens on Sunday with CME. And the 2 days probably getting there as well. Nope, 2 days actually up. So I would favor this kind of remaining in a range as the Bollinger Bands are kind of pointing out on the daily. At 1905 is the number that would turn that back down. Now, of course, this is going to close today, so that is going to update and likely be in and around this lower first on the 2-day chart. So bear that in mind. 3-day is turned to the upside here. 1890 looks okay for right now. 4 days possibly going to turn at least initially to that's dicey. It's 1915. We'll just have to look at it when it opens back up on Sunday. 5-day is at 1914, all pivoted around this 1915, right around where gold has been trading. It's going to be the same on the weekly, by the way. It would not take much to keep this weekly turn to the upside. So above 1915, I would give it room all the way down to 1900. Then I do think gold might have the potential to make a good turn on the weekly, and then see if it can't push up a little bit further into some of the areas discussed on the daily. And that's going to pretty much do it for the technical analysis portion of the stream. For you guys over in the chats there, if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. If you guys in YouTube have any questions, also let me know as well. Let me jump over here and take a look. We're going to turn on the music. I'll take requests. You can coins, stocks, nothing super specific for you guys over there at the prop shop. To your actual work, just keep that in mind, because that is a public chat now. Yep. And then for you guys in YouTube, if anybody has any questions or requests, go ahead and let me know. I'll turn the music up here. If we don't have any, I'll give you my parting words on some things, and then we'll get rolling. So let's go ahead and get a little bit of background music while I look at this chat over here. So you guys are just kind of discussing some of the things that I was talking about. Is there any questions about any of it? Doesn't look like you have many questions about it. Just discussing. Any questions over in YouTube? Looks like I've got quite a few people here, but they are not showing on this screen over here. That's odd. I see them on this screen, but on this one I don't. I see a couple concurrent views over here. I don't, but I've got a bunch over here. That's a little odd. You want some Dogecoin? Hi, Bobby. Let's go ahead and take a look at Doge. The doggy coins. Let's go ahead and poke around and see if there's anything interesting with Doge in terms of setup. This is going to be the Binance chart on the daily. It's holding this major low, but it's still a big old downtrend. Let's turn off the Bollinger Bands here for a moment. Yeah, you know, it's ugly. Below 6 cents, 6.41 cents. Could it, you know, put in a longer term low here on the daily? Sure. Above 6.42, which it's currently trading below on the 2-day. It's going to get an initial cross back down if it does not hold this area. But realistically, I mean, I've already kind of got the box here. we caught that move to the upside around 8.14 cents at this low. It did wick above it slightly at 8.38. And then the yellow box zone at 575 down to 491. That's the big area to hold on to. What's the weekly looking like? Now the weekly's ugly. Weekly at 7.5 cents. You know, a little above there. You know, if it's gonna put in a low, we got to see something out of the daily soon, and it'll probably do it pretty aggressively. So when looking at the weekly on a close, you know, it's got room on a close down to this prior weekly low, but I mean, this is just a downtrend on the weekly. I mean, you're going to get the pattern traders that are going like, no, it's a falling channel. And you see what, when we had the last one, like, no, just zoom out. This is a consolidation. And if it loses this area, well, it's got a ways to fall. You know, you're looking at like lose the wick low there at 4.91, and you know, it'll be a bumpy ride on the way down in terms of bounces, but it's likely destined for like 2 to 3 cents. But you know, as it stands right now, there's just not much happening. Could it set up a reversal? Is this an area of interest? Absolutely. You can see, you know, it technically has room all the way down to 4 cents. But if it drops 4 cents, it's over. It's over for a while for the doggy coin. You know, maybe Elon will tweet something about it or post a picture of a Doge, and you know, and then it pumps again and takes out this last lower high. I mean, that's really what the bulls need. You know, this lower high taken out, still trapped within a wider range, but you know, that's that 838 is the number to beat. And then we start seeing this thing get below 6 cents. It's going to run into the mid 5 cent to upper 5 cent region. It's pretty much all I got for you on that one. You know, we can check Bollinger Bands. I don't think there's too much interesting here outside of, you know, a little bit of compression here. You know, if it starts to lose 617 and on a close, and then in particular this this open down here at 6 cents. Yeah, it's the same thing. I'm looking for expansion down into the upper 5 cent region, mid 5 cent region initially. So your overall entry price is 6 cents. If it holds that area, great. If it breaks down below, it's likely to dip into the mid to upper 5 cent region, and then come back to it later. Hello, Roca. Oh, hi, Spin. Why is this not? This is odd. Like, I see on one screen, I'm seeing your chats, and I'm not seeing any viewers populating. And on the other screen, I'm seeing no chat, but I'm seeing all the viewers that are currently watching. It's very odd. Anybody else have any other requests? For the other chat there, you guys are probably going to be out of the office there in like an hour. So, an hour. Oh, you guys are staying till 4 today? Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah, because you got expirations next week. Okay. If you guys want to hang out while I see if anybody else has got anything, you're more than welcome to. Otherwise, I can ask Jimmy to close that chat down. And, yeah. Any news about the public Discord? Yes, I'm going to be working on some finishing touches this weekend. And hopefully sometime next week, I will have an announcement to make regarding that. It's really about getting the bot refined, because I'm not going to be able to manage a lot of it myself if it does start to grow. As it is going to be publicly available as well, it needs to be a decent bot, which means that there is going to be some restrictions. And, you know, there's a lot of things that I have to take into account too, because I can get malicious actors that, you know, we like to post, you know, share our charts, right? Well, there are malicious actors who have put, you know, drainer code in, you know, into charts and stuff like that. So I'm working through some of those hurdles right now. So it is getting pretty detailed. I might just start it without having the ability for unauthorized people to post pictures, or maybe there is a special channel where you can post your charts or something like that, and then it gets reviewed. But other than that, you know, just putting some finishing touches on it. I have a request here for ETH. ETH, much like Bitcoin, it didn't actually have as nice of a move up as Bitcoin. I guess it did the day before on this doji. And realistically, this doji is going to be the important one, I think. This doji came in on the 6th, and above it, the wick high there at 1669. Nice. Then I'd be looking for it to, at minimum, trade up to the upper first at around 1680, which is up here, to this close open at around 1685 and these highs. Above these highs, which is would also put it above this wick low at around 1700, and I think it's got a chance to run that 1710, 1715 area around this high, and then go from there. As it stands right now, it looks pretty ugly. I'll be honest with you, but it's probably in a zone that it can hold. 1650 would turn momentum on the daily back to the upside here. It's trading at 1630. It tested 1650 today around the basis. On the wick here, 1660 actually. It's got to close above the basis. Once it closes above the basis, then things get interesting for potential upside. Let's look at the 2-day. 2-day is doing one of my favorite things. I've mentioned this so many times now. Get expansion through the lower second and third after a nice tight compression, and then you get it trending sideways. We've got the basis and all of the different moving averages, in this case the standard deviations, catching up to the downside. I like a spike into the lows and or the lower second, which is also into this wick low over here. There's a longer term trend line here. I'm not big on trend lines like that, but some are. But down to 1540, and then just run it the other way, take out this lower high, and go from there. It's one of my favorite setups. We don't often see it. Sometimes we see stuff like this. It comes back to the basis, just keeps expanding, keeps going until it gets another pop of volatility. As it stands right now, the 2-day is pivoted at 1675. So again, still very much downside angled here on ETH. 3-day is shown that, likely to range. You can see the lower second. Again, that same look, impulse through, very volatile expansion, and then a retest of the lower second. But if it can, latch on to the lower first here at 1665, well, then the daily can start turning, and then possibly the 2-day, so on and so forth, and that can bleed into a nicer bounce above, especially if it can get above 1700, back to that basis band, 1750 to 1775, maybe even above into the 1800 area. To the downside, it'd be right into that 1550, right around the low there at 1540. Anything below there and its trend continuation to the downside, we're looking at probably pretty damn low prices for ETH at that point. Shave off another $100 to $200. The 4-day is the other thing to watch here. Is this is closing on Saturday as well. It's going to be the same thing here: 2-day, 3-day, 4-day, and that's going to be something to watch. See if this completes across above 1623 at the current pivot, and then come back to it. And currently, 1623, it's kind of dicey. If it can't hold 1630 on the daily and whatnot, then it's likely not ready for that cross yet, right? And that's kind of all I got. I mean, ETH on the weekly is still downside below 1800, so that is also right around where that basis band is. At the end of this weekly candle, we'll likely see the basis band at around 1800, maybe a little lower. It is up against the lower second, yes, and if it's going to reverse, it can still take a while. We'll see the lower second likely get expansion down either way into this trend line area around the lows, which makes them available from the weekly perspective. And the daily's not inspiring right now, just like Bitcoin's is not, but it's still just, it's just a range. Now, it's an ugly downtrending range, and a little bit more so on ETH. I mean, I guess I can't say it's a little bit more so because it's basically the same look on Bitcoin if you go like this. So it's just ugly, but it's still a range. A little bit more downside angled in terms of its bull band setup, yes. Over here, Bobby says, can you look at crude oil? Yeah. Commodities. We'll look at, in this case, I'm going to look at US oil. And looks good on the daily. Could it be putting in a high? Yeah, maybe 80, just under 88 bucks at 87.94. It's probably going to close under there today. So looking at an initial cross down, but you know, this was a very nice move up on oil. Obviously, I'm sure everyone's thrilled about the price of oil being higher, right? You know, this is a major low that it just put in. Had a nice breakout. I would expect it to come retest. You know, this would be a breakout setting a major low, especially if it can set the monthly like this. 84, 85 bucks would be the main target to the downside. If it can't hold that, it's going to be back to the basis, but right now it's just hanging on the highs. It's got to lose that upper first around 85.45. Then we can start hunting around 84. Below there, it's back to the basis right around this wick high at 80 to 83 bucks. And you know, I mean, it can even at this point come all the way back to the lower first, and it's fine. Around 80, yeah, 79, 33 to 80 bucks. Below there, then it's, you know, this low is in danger, but literally just set this. It broke this local downtrend. So you had your lower low, your higher, your lower high, lower low again, and then just boom right up to a higher high. So is it kind of getting there and needs a little bit of a cool down on the daily? Yeah. 2 days likely saying, nah, I'm good. 82.76. Momentum pivot. This is a beautiful retest on the basis of the 2-day bands. Re-expanding back to the upside here. I mean, this thing can come all the way back to 75 bucks and it's still going to be a longer term uptrend in my opinion. It would be ugly, but it would throw a bunch of divergence from that. On a breakdown, looks further up to me. 85 bucks for the 3-day. It's going to close today. 4-day. Yeah, we're going to have to see the opens on oil, but the 4-day it's in a reversal zone. So I would, you know, caution 86.41, that looks like. Currently trading above that pivot. It's likely going to update and further expand to the upside, which is going to give that room for that daily to keep testing higher if it you know, is going to chop around. You know, above the upper first at 82 bucks on the 4-day looks beautiful. Just below there, it's still retesting highs. But this is a breakout. This is a major low. Is it a macro low? No. In fact, this is the macro low over here. Just prior, rather. So this was your major low retest, making this guy a macro low, which it's tested around that 65 bucks. But I think that's going to be a macro low until proven otherwise, especially with holding support here and here. Yeah. Looks cleared for at least testing up further. Seeing that expansion even on the 5-day. It's not yet turned. 87.60 would do it. Might get an initial cross. Can this completely, you know, can it take out this big consolidation here and then head down and test that macro low area? Possibly around 60 to 65 bucks. But realistically, it's probably going to chop around on the highs. We'll see what's going on with it sooner rather than later. The weekly 87.60 as well. Obviously, it's the same as the 5-day. So in this case, you know, we'll take a look at this next week. In terms of overall structure, like, it is painting a bit of a longer term weekly toppy looking structure, even if it does run those highs again. But we're talking really long term at that point. And that's where the monthly comes into play. And, you know, the real macro low is this guy down here, like $20, with 36 confirming, but in the weekly macro low areas, it's quite a bit higher. So from the monthly, you know, the monthly actually looks pretty darn good on oil, and monthly Stoke agrees, $70, and it's a little bit above there right now. So we'll see what this updates to. What's the quarterly looking like? That's where, you know, things could, you know, we could be seeing maybe a longer term consolidation and a much wider range for oil, which, you know, is going to lead to more volatility on those lower term time frames. But, you know, I think it's kind of capped around 106, 107 on the quarterly upper second. It could even push that quarterly upper third at the highs again, but I think it's kind of, unless something crazy happens, I think it's kind of found its peak for a while. It's really going to depend on this monthly, which is coming from a pretty low angle on a higher low, close. So that's where it could get ugly. Run the 107 to 107 to 110, 112 area, and then maybe push the highs again at some point. That would not be good. Now, of course, with oil, you know, it is a lot more subject to supply and demand and economic policy and stance. So just keep that in mind, as it can do things unexpectedly. You know, if there's a lot of oil that dumps on the market, then maybe you got to look into Dawn stock. The guys over there will get that joke. Yeah, you get it. But yeah, then you'd be looking for the basis to act as resistance, and then it comes back down, tries to base out, stays above that $70, but provides a little bit of short-term relief for people at the pump in particular. So I think that's going to do it, unless anybody's got any other questions here. We'll just check in with Bitcoin on the lower term time frames real quick here. Let's go ahead and say, hi, Bitcoin, what are you doing? A whole lot of nothing so far, just consolidating, hanging out. And let's go ahead and turn on the oh man, you guys are funny over there. The old timers got a kick out of the Dawn joke. Okay. I kind of figured. All right. Cool. Bobby, thumbs up over there. Yeah, that's going to do it for today. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. I will have some news regarding Discord, hopefully sometime next week. Maybe I'll have an announcement even. That's what I'm shooting for. And yeah, have a great weekend. Have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. And with all of that being said, I will bid you adieu. Landy out.
Mi sento in cucinella, volatile.